2024 meeting of the Pima County Election Integrity Commission. Do we have microphones? But not internally. There's no speakers in here. Okay. Commissioner Beresny, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Misty Atkins.
Here.
Connie Delarge.
Here.
Ryan Mace.
Here.
Cheryl Caswell.
Here.
Barbara Tillman.
Here.
Arthur Kirshen.
Here.
Thomas Beresny.
Present.
Tiana Smith.
Here.
And welcome to the commission.
Thank you.
The chair is here, and Director Hargrove.
Here.
Okay. We do have our county recorder with us this morning for a very brief period of time. She did have some questions that she would like to ask and some points that she would like to clarify, related primarily to agenda item 5G, which is the electoral flow chart. If there's no objection, I'd like to alter the agenda to let her make her comments so she can leave for another meeting in a timely fashion. Anybody?
Yeah, so you don't want to do the full thing yet, you just want to
No,
record
there
and
are,
make
there
comments?
are some questions that she has about some issues that she's seen looking at it.
Okay.
For an informational perspective, particularly as far as the ad hoc committee is concerned. I think it would be good to get her input or concerns that we can address or not address. So,
Thank you. And we're good? Okay. Hi, I'm Gabriela Castres Kelly. I haven't had a chance to meet Tiana Smith, but I did a very brief review of the flow chart. I think there's a lot of excellent information in here. What I noticed right away, however, that we're missing some key components, like military and overseas voting is not included in this flow chart, which, that has to do with a federal postcard application process. Voters can register all the way up until 7 p.m. on Election Day, and that's extremely important, very different from the regular process, as well as the federal write-in ballot, which also acts as a voter registration form. So that, I wanted to point that out for page 1. And then on pages, and I've only reviewed the areas that are most relevant to me in my office. I don't know if there's additional information within the elections flow charts that are pertinent to my office. I don't know. I haven't reviewed that. But in 9, I also had some comments about the language about rejected ballots. Our line staff are never able to reject ballots. That would go through an administrator.
Okay,
And so,
which block are you in?
what's that?
Ma'am, which block are you-
The 1, 2, 3, fourth one down.
Okay,
And then also the rejected ballots are held separately area. That's incorrect. So there was a couple of things here that I thought were not exactly nitpicky, but I think that I wanted to know, it started leading to questions of like, what is the purpose of the flow chart? Who is responsible for ensuring the accuracy of the flow chart? Where is this going to be housed? And is it available, or will it be readily available to the public? And if so, what are the deadlines? The reasons that I'm throwing that out there is because I haven't had a chance to, this is my preliminary review of that, and I know that my chief deputy, along with Jeremy from the elections office, they had been working on this also, but we're unsure of intention behind it. And so that's kind of what I wanted to know, like, where is this going? What is this for? Who is the audience? And what are we doing with it? So,
Okay,
Commissioner
okay, so
Brady?
the audience is everybody in this room and the public, okay? Back in February, I brought up in our bylaws, we had a statement in there that this commission looks at the electoral process. There was no definition for the electoral process, so we defined it. We came up with a definition for that a couple months later. So this basically becomes a graphic interpretation of what the electoral process would give based on that definition. So this would give the public basically an awareness of how elections and the recorder's office, because the recorder's office is part of the overall electoral process. So the public has an idea on how elections in Pima County are run. So I was going to discuss at during the agenda time at 5G, that this be housed on the Elections Department website, or webpage, excuse me, on the county's website, after a vote by the commission that we accept this as version 1.0. Calling it version 1.0 because it's always a purview to update the electoral process when need be. Ms. Hargrove gave us a copy of an electoral process that she dug up in the archives from about 5 or 6 years ago, I think it was. So we kind of used that as a baseline when we started the ad hoc committee, and we expanded it to present day. And so what you see on pages 9 and 10 specifically about the early ballot processing. So when we were going through our ad hoc committee, we actually used that slide presentation that you gave back in May, or Jeremy, excuse me, I give Jeremy the props on this one. We kind of asked Jeremy to use your slide presentation to be able to fill out pages 9 and 10. Okay, so that's where we actually came up with those 2 pages, was from your presentation.
okay. The part of why I was asking about what the process or who the audience is depending on who the audience is, we're going to go into more detail. Because it's complex and it's very complicated, and so having to give those nuances, that I think that helps inform me. And like I said, there's a lot of really great information contained in here, but it depends on how far down the rabbit hole we want to go. And again, I didn't know who to reach out to in regards to, edits or anything like that. And like I said, I didn't know what the timeline was or what the deadlines, and so I'm just kind of,
Okay, so
that was my thoughts.
like I said, we can always accept this as version 1.0, and we can then, now that we've got that established within the commission itself, we pass it from the ad hoc committee into the commission as a whole, we can, on a monthly basis, if we have additions or we have changes that we want to make, if somebody sees something that needs to be made, we can bring it up on an agenda, as an agenda item, and make corrections as we go along.
It would be my recommendation that this be continued to be edited before approving for public view, especially because the military and overseas, which is that's a really confusing and often overlooked process. because that's missing, and then also simply the language in regards to rejected ballots. If this is going to be a public document, that people that is informing the public, and they're seeing that without understanding the scrutiny that we go through, and the reach out to before their ballots are already numbered. We're trying to voters before their ballots are rejected. I just, and that's, the fault of our office not providing that information within the PowerPoint. I did verbalize that in the presentation, just not in the PowerPoint. So that would be my recommendation. It would just to continue this. We're heading right into, we're just weeks away from beginning the presidential preference election. But after that time, we would be able to put more time into reviewing this
So
document.
what you're saying, Madam Recorder, is wait until after March 19th.
Yes.
Okay, so I was going to suggest, since the ad hoc committee had basically been finished up with this first draft, Chair Bickle, and we go through changes that we see, we'd still keep that ad hoc committee established, maybe not necessarily meeting on a regular basis. So I will concede that. And so what I was suggesting is we have our ad hoc committee meeting the first Friday in April. And fortunately, it's not Good Friday. That's the Friday before. It's important to me. So if you could have or work with the elections office or come to the ad hoc meeting, or a representative of yours come to the ad hoc meeting, and we could make those corrections there.
Who, Commissioner Bresney, who is the person who's literally moving around the squares and editing this
Jeremy
document?
George.
Oh, okay, just double checking. I'll
Okay.
reach out with Jeremy and get with him also, and I know that he, we had, I know he had been in communication with Marion Chuban, my chief deputy,
Mhm.
and they had been working, but again, the questions, thank you, the questions about who the audience was, what the intention of this, where it's going to be housed, what the deadlines, whether or not this was an immediate or whether it could wait. All of those were part of the questions that we had in regards to our responses and how thorough we could be given the time frame. So that's much more, that clarifies a lot for me. Unfortunately, I have to leave right now.
Okay.
But thank you so much for moving me to the front of the agenda to just address those concerns. And thank you. I think it's I'm really excited to go through the rest of it. And, there's much I don't know about the elections department
Yeah.
end, so I'm really looking forward to that.
So, just real quick, so we use flow charts to really, I know it looks complicated, but it actually simplifies. It simplifies because you don't have to go through 385 pages of the Elections Procedures Manual. You don't have to go through the, I don't know how many hundreds of pages of Arizona Revised Statute Title 16. This gives, and when you build a flow chart like this, then for somebody like the Elections Department or the Recorder's Office, you can use a flow chart like this to use as the foundation for your training, for poll workers, for the early voting center workers, and things like that. It's used as a guide for that. I mean, professionally, that's what I've used things like this for over the last 40 years, 40 plus years.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Thank you, Recorder Casares Kelly. And getting back on the regular agenda schedule, call to the public. Is there anybody that would like to address the commission this morning? I know it was too good to be true. And please state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Morning, Commission. My name is Tim Locks. Pretty much the only reason I came here today was to speak to you, Chair Bickle, about our conversation last November. The county recorder, who seems to just drop bombs and then leaves like she did now, is not transparent, period. We have been waiting for weeks, if not months, for answers from simple questions from the recorder's office. When I spoke here last time, I asked that we have some type of arrangement where we can submit questions to the chair to be asked of the county recorder. How else are we supposed to get information from the county recorder? We follow the practice of sending emails or putting in records requests. We get absolutely nothing back from them. Stonewall. And as I stated when I was here last time, right in front of Constance, Gabriella said to me, "We are not going to answer any more questions about Runbeck." They are government servants. They work for us. We need an avenue in order to get and extract information and extract answers. Now, your response at the end of the meeting, Chair Bickle, was you would talk to Adelita. Whose commission is this? Is it her commission? This is our commission, just like the Board of Supervisors is our Board of Supervisors. So, again, I respectfully request that we have some type of avenue in which to submit questions to you that can be asked of the county recorder, because she sure as heck does not want to talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Laux. Anybody else would like to address the commission? And again, please state your name for the record.
Good morning. My name is Gisela Aaron, and I didn't plan on speaking today, but I saw on the agenda is the EPM, the new EPM. And are you aware that it has a lot of problems? Many of those things that Adrian Fontes put in there are not legal by law. They are in opposition of our state laws or the Constitution even. And so it will probably be challenged, so don't get used to it. Also, I've been here many times, and I gave you this document, and I have asked you to follow up, please, and get answers. If you can't get it from the Board of Supervisors and from the state, maybe go directly to the EAC. And there were so many problems with their certifications. So the chair of the commission didn't sign it as required by law. So the accreditation of the labs that accredit our equipment are not legally certified since 2018. And that's a breach of contract because the correct person, the authorized signer, did not sign the certificates. I also have proof, a screenshot of the certificate for SLI compliance. Mark Robbins signed it. He was acting as the executive director of the EAC signing it, but only the chair can sign it. He used to be their counsel for many years, and in 2010 there was a Senate hearing, and Brian Hancock, who is the director of testing, at the time warned that commercial off-the-shelf items, COTS, in the equipment are not certifiable, and they are danger to American elections because the chips are coming from China, and now our legislators put in a new HCR, they asserted their plenary power because they knew the governor wouldn't sign it because she vetoed everything, 140 vetoes. Anyway, so they put in their plenary power because they are in direct charge of the state elections, and what they say goes, and they mandated that equipment in federal elections, which is this year, that they going forward this year, are in fact all the components and parts of the machines are made in America. And can you guarantee that? The chips and all the devices, the machines. For example, your EPOL book That's not certifiable, and you say you have an exception and you don't need to. But it goes on the internet, and the modem that's in there, that decertifies anything. It's not allowed, even if it's just optional and the machine manufacturer left it in there. That decertifies the entire system because EAC only allowed machine and equipment without modems per the VVSG 1.0, VVSG 1.1 of 2015, and the new VVSG 2.0. They tried to make a deal behind the scenes with the manufacturers because they want to leave those in, and they have been caught. And this left-wing group, Free Speech for People, has sued them. And they say this decertifies the entire system if American equipment, election equipment, has a modem in there that is not allowed per the VVSG 2.0, 1.1, and 1.0. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody, excuse me, have any additions, deletions, or corrections to the November 17th, 2023 meeting summaries? And again, I would like to point out that these are just written summaries that are put together. The actual minutes are the recording of the meeting. Hearing none, they'll stand approved as presented. Agenda items. Election of officers. Per our bylaws, we do have to elect officers at the January meeting every year, a chair and a vice chair. And I would also point out to the commissioners that per the bylaws, the chair and the vice chair need to be of differing political parties. So is there anybody that would like to make a nomination for somebody as chair?
I would like to make a nomination for Brian Bickle to be chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Excuse me, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Are there any further nominations for chair of the Pima County Election Integrity Commission? Are there any other nominations for chair of the Pima County Election Integrity Commission?
You want to nominate? Chair Bickle?
No.
Oh,
I'll nominate you for vice chair.
okay.
Are there any other nominations for chair of the Pima County Election Integrity Commission?
Move that nominations be closed.
Hearing none, I move the nominations be closed. We will, just for the record, we'll go through the list. Misty Atkins, aye or nay?
Yes.
Connie DeLarge,
Aye.
Ryan Meese,
Aye.
Cheryl Caswell,
Aye.
Barbara Tillman,
Here. Aye.
Arthur Kirshen,
Aye.
Thomas Berezny,
Aye.
Tiana Smith,
Aye.
and I will abstain. Okay. I get to do this for another year. Come on, guys.
I thought that's what you wanted, though, Brian.
There's days. Nominations for the vice chair. And I believe Commissioner Caswell, Commissioner Berezny, Commissioner Smith, and Commissioner Kirshen are eligible to be nominated for vice chair.
I'll
Since
nominate.
Commissioner Atkins, Commissioner Meese, Commissioner Tillman, and Commissioner DeLarge are of the same party as the chair.
I'll nominate Thomas Berezny.
I have a nomination for Thomas Berezny as vice chair. Is there a second?
I will second.
I have a nomination and a second. Is there any discussion? Are there any other nominations for vice chair of the Pima County Election Integrity Commission? Are there any other nominations for the vice chair of the Pima County Election Integrity Commission? Are there any other nominations for the Pima County Election Integrity Commission vice chair?
Move that nominations be closed.
Nominations have been moved to be closed. Hearing no further nominations, so it shall be. Again, District 1, Commissioner Atkins,
Aye.
Commissioner DeLarge,
Aye.
Commissioner Mace,
Aye.
Commissioner Caswell,
Aye.
Commissioner Tellman.
Aye.
Commissioner Kirshen.
Aye.
Commissioner Bickle votes aye. Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
And Commissioner Beresny.
Abstain.
Okay, so your officers for the coming year are Commissioner Bickle as chair and Commissioner Beresny as vice chair. Moving right along. Discussion of the Zoom meeting sponsored by the Citizens Clean Election Commission. This had to do with the governor's task force on elections, which, if you looked at the draft of the report to the Board of Supervisors, one of the things that the commission did recommend was they put forth my name to the governor's office to serve on that commission. I was not chosen, thankfully. We did have Pima County representation, though. I know Commissioner Cassar, or Recorder Casares Kelly was on that task force, and it was co-chaired by the governor and Helen Purcell, who is a former Maricopa County recorder. Their report is available online. They did have 5 areas of focus. The first was election administration. Second was voter registration. Third was early voting. Fourth was election day and post-election procedures. And the fifth was election equipment and security. They did break up into 5 or 6 working groups that addressed those issues. They did come up with 16 recommendations, which are in the report. I would recommend, and I will do this formally under call for future agenda items, that this commission look at those 16 items to a month over the next 8 months. Does anybody
Could we
have?
get Chair Bickle, could we get a link to Vanessa, to all of us? If we have a link to that report?
It's on our website, is it not? As part of the election materials? Is the report in there?
It should be, but I'll double check.
Okay.
It should be on our website, so if it's not, we'll get it there.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Okay. Plans for the presidential preference election. Commissioner Tellman. You don't hear anything, it's just...
Yeah, I know. It goes up. I was requesting that we have information about the plans and the calendar for the presidential preference election. When will the logic and accuracy test be? Will there be a hand count audit? Just that general information about the presidential preference election.
Director Hargrove or Deputy Director George?
So the calendar should be on our website of the dates and times for logic and accuracy testing. The memo will be going out to the political party chairs next week with the dates of all of the testing and when observers would be required to be there, as well as there will be a hand count audit after the PPE. And all of that will be in the memo that's going out to the political party chairs, but the calendar is on our website.
I'm assuming both parties are having a PPE?
Chair Bickle, yes, both parties are having the PPE, yes.
And what about the Libertarians?
The Libertarians are not having PPE. And I don't know if everybody is aware that you have to be registered with the party that you wish to, the primary that, I guess it's not a primary here, the election that you wish to vote in, so you have to be registered as a Democrat or a Republican to vote in the PPE. So if you're an independent candidate, you must register to vote as a Republican or a Democrat in order to vote. Green Party, whatever party you may be, if you're not a Democrat or Republican, you will not receive a ballot. So everybody would know.
Thank you.
Chair Bickle, I wanted to point out the Libertarian Party has already appointed its delegates to the National Convention to pick the presidential candidate, and all Libertarian delegates are unbound.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
Commissioner
Commissioner
President
Caswell?
Bickle? Yes. Director Hargrove, I've been on the elections website to find the calendar. Under upcoming elections, there's a few items listed, but normally you have that 3-page calendar that has all the dates, all the offices that will be, and a lot more information. I can find that when doing a Google search, but cannot find it on the website as a direct link to that 3-page document of election calendar information. So, I mean, just the dates are on the calendar there, but normally you have a document, and so I'll pull the document up.
Yes, so we no longer, well, right now, we do not have access to be able to post documents ourselves, so we have to send them to communications to post. Obviously, the calendar has not been posted. It's normally an Excel spreadsheet or a PDF that we post with all of the dates, so we will check when we get back to the office to make sure it gets posted.
Thank you.
And just for the record, I'd like to make a comment that the new and updated county website is new. I don't know that I would call it a step forward. Finding information on the county website. And I'm not talking about just elections and election integrity. I'm talking about anything that you're looking for on the county website. Finding it is a nightmare.
Yeah, there's a lot of broken links
Yeah.
on there, a lot.
Okay, anything else on the PPE? Update on the city recount, Commissioner Tillman.
I hope this is a quick answer.
Commissioner Tillman, yes, it actually is a quick answer. There will be no recount. So the AG's office, the Attorney General's office did rule, and they said that the statute applies to statewide measures, but not local measures. So no recount.
Okay. And notice that the Elections Procedures Manual is official and available. Commissioner Tillman.
I just put this as an information item.
Okay. And there is a link on the agenda if people want to know how to
I
get to
checked
it.
that link last night and it doesn't connect. It doesn't work.
Okay.
Oh, so this is, are we gonna have a discussion on this, or you just want?
It's information. The manual is there. It is official now.
Well, it's not at that location.
Okay. The link doesn't work. If you want to have a discussion about the EPM, that's not what this was intended for. Am I correct in that statement?
No, because it's already official, we can't do anything about it at this point.
There's no opportunity for public comment or anything at this point in time.
No, yeah, to the Secretary of State's office, correct?
Right.
Okay. So, all right.
In terms of the missing link, I think the state has also made major changes to its website, and the QR code for voter registration is no longer the same as it was, and or will be changed very soon. So there are changes going generally on their website, too.
Did. Yeah, the Secretary of State did up, in my opinion, a bad word, but they did update their website, and it's been a little bit problematic because they decided to update it in the middle of a campaign finance reporting window. Not the best decision they've ever made. So, okay, ad hoc committee electoral process flow chart, Commissioner Beresny.
Did we have a 5F?
Oh, excuse me. Plans for any new software or hardware, Commissioner Tillman.
Are we having any changes in software or hardware between now and the November election, or the primary?
Chair Bickle, Commissioner Tillman, no, we will not be changing anything prior to the election.
Will we be getting new equipment for the vote centers, any more printers, that sort of thing?
we have ordered and received everything that we're going to have for the election.
Okay, so we won't see anything coming to the Board of Supervisors for another procurement then? I guess that's what that means.
Commissioner Beresny, so what you may see, because the contract has to be renewed, and so I believe procurement will be going back to the board to renew the contract, so you will see that, but that is not.
So basically for licenses and stuff, since that's.
Licenses to give us the ability to purchase additional toner and whatever we may need for the upcoming year, as well as the recorder is on that contract as well. But we're not anticipating purchasing anything except for toner for the general election.
Any other questions? Now, the ad hoc committee electoral process flow chart. Commissioner Beresny.
Okay, thank you, Chair Bickle. So we established the ad hoc committee about 10 months ago. We've had a number of meetings over the last 10 months. Heard the recorder today. She still has some questions on a few items that are in her area of expertise, or her area of responsibility, So what I would like to do is present this to the board or to the commission, give everybody an opportunity to take the next month to look at it, and then I'll place on the agenda for discussion on it next month. Now, we heard the recorder. We're going to work with Jeremy to update some of the recorder's information in this in April. So we'll have an April, first Friday in April, ad hoc committee meeting, which is after the PPE. And then we'll go in with those changes after talking to the recorder and come up for a final acceptance of this version in April.
Question.
Sure.
Does this, just sitting here looking at it generally speaking, this doesn't flow from page to page. It's not like you start at the top of page 1 and there's a flow that goes all the way through
Right.
page
So, okay.
whatever.
So we could put on the overview tab, and I don't know if we discussed this or not, Jeremy, we could put on the overview tab, on the overview page, which of the detailed pages this item will show up in, and will that help with clarification?
It certainly, I would think, lend itself to a more fluid document rather
Okay.
than,
Sure.
you can look at, you get the 50,000-foot view on the overview page. And basically what it does is you're going to have a bunch of blocks on the overview page that are going to reference a particular page within the
Right.
document that deals with that particular issue.
And so one of the things that, when we got into the details, we put in
Okay,
Arizona, so you'll statutes and they'll with his procedures manual.
okay.
So you'll have that detail within the detailed, flows. But yeah, I think if we put page number where on this overall block diagram, that's what I call it, the overview, the 50,000-foot level diagram, and identify the page number that you'll find that on, that should help clarify.
Okay. Yeah, and again, just looking at it visually,
Okay?
the way I would see this is if I've got 16 pages in here, 15 of them would be other than this page, I would kind of expect to see 15 blocks on this diagram, each one of them referencing a page in the document. Maybe that works, maybe it doesn't, but as close to that as possible.
I think you'll have, you may have some of these overview block diagrams be on the same page in the detail.
Okay,
Okay, and I think, and I just want to point out the first three where we talk about registering to vote online, recorder's office verifies, or voter who meet eligibility requirements, which is all in the recorder's purview, we have no details for any of that information. I would like to have some. And we'll talk to the recorder to see if they can provide that information on our April 1st meeting, so we can have some of that information, because that's, I think more than anything else, Chair Bickle, and I don't want to, the concerns that people have in the state of Arizona is people that are registered to vote that shouldn't be registered to vote or be on the AEVL or how the registrations go on. That's where most of the skeptics that I read are at. Okay, so if we could get some clarification. Now, the recorder did come in May and talk about the way she does, or her office does maintenance on the voter registration database, but it's a 50,000 foot level thing. So if we could get a little bit more detail on how those operations go for transparency, and if we take what it's in our bylaws, for use, what's that term I always use, like to use, for the public trust, it would go a long way for the public trust, which, according to our bylaws, we are supposed to be the guardians of. So, well, we could reach out to the recorder's office and get some more information on those 3 blocks also. So that is, to me, that's the big shortfall in this electoral process flow chart.
And I understand, and to address some of the issues that were raised, pleasure of the Board of Supervisors exists at the pleasure of the Board of Supervisors.
Mm-hmm.
They can take it away if they would like. Neither this commission nor the Board of Supervisors has any prescriptive authority over the recorder's office. She's an
Fully
independently
understand.
elected official. So I would say what we are able to get and address depends on the relationship that you or the ad hoc committee has established with the recorder's office.
Okay.
Okay.
Chair Bickle, I just have a question of clarification. When you were, Commissioner Berezny, when you were speaking to the recorder earlier about where you wanted the document to live, you said you wanted it to live on the elections website.
I believe so, yes, that would be
Okay.
the appropriate place for it.
And I'm assuming that you also want it on the EIC website, but I just want to make sure that that is correct.
If we put it on the EIC website, as it's constructed right now, the EIC website, to find a document, except for the bylaws, you have to dig down into an agenda, into the agenda items to find a document. So if there's a way that you can put this on the EIC website where it's prominent, where no voter or resident in the county has to go searching on an agenda, where it's prominent, if we can add some specific thing, you could then put a link in the elections department website, or web page, which the EIC website, the EIC page falls underneath the clerk of the board when you go structurally on the Pima County website, which is separate from the elections department. So if we put it in a prominent place on the EIC website where you don't have to go digging into an agenda, just like we do for the bylaws. The bylaws for this, you got a link there, boom. The electoral process, boom, can found there, and you can have that link then also on the Elections Department website.
Yes, sir, Commissioner. We can, just like we do with the annual report, it can have its own space there on the page, directly on the page. It can be on both pages. I just wanted to make sure that I was clear that you didn't just want it on the elections page and not the EIC's
Well, I
page.
think it would be appropriate to put it on both.
Okay, sure.
Because this is a tool for the commission to use on a monthly basis. It is. If there's upgrades or updates that come out from an EPM, legislative actions, outcomes of lawsuits, where there may be some place where this flow chart and your procedures itself in the elections department need to be updated. So this is one of those things that the EIC would have to look at then.
Chair Bickle, so I think with that being said, there needs to be some structure as to who and when the updates will occur. We don't have to figure that out now, but if it is a living document, but who is going to be updating it, who's going to be keeping track of it, when would that happen? So there needs to be some structure
So-
as to when that will happen.
So the ad hoc committee with Mr. George's, yeoman's work, that's a military term, did the heavy lifting, then if we need to make changes, then we stand up on a first Friday of the month to make those changes within the ad hoc committee, then present them to the commission 2 weeks later.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No,
Commissioner Tillman?
I think this is really a good project that you undertook, and it's very helpful and informative. I really like it. I have two comments about the appearance. It seems that this is not a flow chart, but a series of flow charts on each page. So maybe it should be entitled flow charts or something, because I'm thinking of a flow chart, a great big thing that you don't want, that has all the bullets leading to someplace else.
Yeah.
And here they just stop and you start with a new page.
the problem with, and I fully understand the concern. We have so many parallel actions that go on within the elections department, the recorder's office, voter registration, candidates, scrubbing the ballots and things like that. You could put it on a serial flow chart, which would probably take half of this wall
Right.
if you put it in a serial thing. That's why we have a bunch of, like I said, parallel activities going on at the same time, each one of those activities having their own separate flow chart. And I fully understand, I used to do new equipment training in the Army 40 years ago. So we had flow charts for every sub-process. We didn't have an overall we had an overall flow chart for a piece of equipment, but we had subsequent flow charts for each process or sub-process when we maintain that equipment. So I fully understand, what you're saying. It is a series of flow charts. We can't, I think it's probably impossible to have a serial flow chart.
I'm
That's
not-
what the black
yeah.
diagram kind of does.
I'm not suggesting that you have a serial flow chart, but that you rename it flow charts, perhaps. So you don't have the expectation that you have one big flow chart, just a matter of terminology.
Kind of what I said, as far as the overview page is concerned, just a different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my other comment is, I find the white, small white letters on a sort of a medium blue background hard to read. I think something much better contrast, or maybe put a border around and have it black on white or something, just make it easier to read.
You know, Commissioner Tillman, I have that same concern. When I print it off at home, I don't want to use my blue ink to print this off.
Right.
You know, that's why I printed it in grayscale, and it makes it even harder
Right.
to read it. So if we could have Jeremy flip the colors on this, just do the blocks in white, lettering in black, that would be much more suitable for reading.
I think it would make it a really good, useful tool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tillman. And Assistant Director George, since you seem to be the workhorse behind this, would you mind sharing which program the flowchart was created in, and is it available in native format, or has it all been converted to PDF?
It's done in Visio, and then converted to PDF.
Done in,
Each page is done differently, and then combined with PDF.
okay, so it's a program called Visio?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Last agenda item, EIC 2023 Annual Report Draft. I know this came out relatively late because the Communications Department jazzed it up a little bit, I think. But has everybody had an opportunity to at least look at it?
Excellent.
Any comments or questions
On the
on the
report?
On the report?
I do, Chair Bickle, if I may.
You may.
Okay, thank you. When I read through this, I see that a lot of the stuff that the EIC did over the last 12 months is not included in this report. Okay, and for instance, Deputy Director George gave an extremely good briefing in November on the issues that we have with recounts. Remember that one? The recounts, the timelines, the compressed timelines that we're gonna have. So that's extremely important for the Board of Supervisors to know, you know, the information that went into that. You know, just the fact that, you're right, even though the Recorder's Office cannot be directed by us or the Board of Supervisors, you know, the recorder coming in on the May agenda, brought on by Commissioner Tillman to do the, what I call the day in the life presentation of an early ballot, along with what she does for the what the Recorder's Office does for the voter registration database maintenance, that should be included in here. Nothing about, you had the ad hoc committee, the work that we've done, but we actually defined what the electoral process was, which was in our bylaws. I see on page 4 of the report, you have Ms. Hargrove as an ex officio elections department. She's a member of the EIC. In our bylaws, it has the recorder also as an ex officio member, but it's not included in this report. We went through a few months last year. We discussed the recorder's contract with Runbeck, which I feel is important. And I understand we can't tell we are responsible for the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors can't tell the recorder what to do, but the Board of Supervisors has oversight on all procurements of the election department, of the Recorder's Office. That in itself, for us to do our job as an advisory board, an independent advisory board to the Board of Supervisors, we should be able to tell the Board of Supervisors concerns that we have, especially with the run-back equipment that we had, along with the database administrator from the recorder's office doing that from his home on a non-government Pima County issued computer. These are all important aspects, I feel, Commissioner Bickle or Chair Bickle, that should be included in this report.
Okay. Any other comments?
I think the question is, what is the purpose of a report, an annual report? I think it's to be a concise summary document, and they've had the minutes all along to see any of these things you're mentioning. I think it would make the report really much too long if we tried to include everything like that. So the question is, what's the purpose of the report?
Chair Bickle?
Commissioner Caswell.
I do agree with Commissioner Beresny's statements. We're here to provide for the public trust, and I think that information should be included, as this report is also the report of the commission's work.
Thank you. Now the question comes, who's going to take the time to put all that in there? Which has been my argument with, because the document that created this commission provided for administrative support for that kind of activity, and we are, for lack of a better term, the bastard stepchild that floats around out here, and everybody says, well, maybe we get help, maybe we don't.
Chair
Director
Bickle,
Hargrove.
so Ms. Figueroa has put a lot of work into putting the report together, and that is your admin support. I just have one question, sort of along the lines of Commissioner Tellman. Should the, or would the, I should say, EIC consider or want to provide reports to the Board of Supervisors periodically on your concerns and things that you may want to bring to their attention? Would you want all of that just to be in the annual report, which is a highlight of what happened during the year, not necessarily defining and talking about everything that happened? So I guess my question is, how do we want to move forward this year with providing the board information? Do we want to provide them periodic information so that they have that throughout the year, or just wait until the end of the year and give them an annual report?
Chair Bickle, can I?
Commissioner Beresny.
So, I like your idea, Ms. Hargrove, because you give a quarterly report to the Board of Supervisors.
I do.
True. So there's two ways we could do that, and I think it's an excellent idea. I think they do need to know more often on the work that's being done by this, because we don't have a web presence anymore where any member of the Board of Supervisors or their staff can watch the proceedings in here. I've asked about that for a long time. So we need to give, if we are an advisory board to the Board of Supervisors, then a quarterly report would definitely be a great way of keeping the Board of Supervisors informed. We could do it one of two ways: have a separate report from the EIC, or we could tag it on the Elections Department quarterly report.
Chair Bickle, I do recommend a separate report from the EIC so that it's clear. I also would request that, and I don't know if that would be you, Vice Chair, that someone provide us with whatever those highlights we want to report to the board quarterly would be. So we're not just trying to figure out and determine, okay, what is it that the EIC wants to report? We need some guidance as to what you feel is pertinent to provide to the board on a quarterly basis.
So, Chair Bickle, we could draft a quarterly report, present it to the EIC, vote on it and then send it up to the Board of Supervisors. And if it takes Commissioner Beresny to do that draft report, I'll be more than happy to do it.
Okay.
Now, what days do you, I mean, what months do you give your quarterly report, Ms. Hargrove?
Chair Bickle. So I do mine, so it would be through March. So I would do my report in April, and then I'm thinking whatever the quarters are, so every
So you do
3
it the month
months.
preceding the first calendar quarter.
I'm doing the calendar year.
Okay. So it's April, July, October, and then
September,
January.
yeah. And I will say, so since this is coming from the EIC, we will do a boss air to put it on the board's agenda. And we will let you know when that will appear on the agenda, so that if someone wants to be there from the EIC to discuss the report or answer any questions, you can be there.
I love that idea, Ms. Hargrove. Thank you.
And I believe that in order for it to be discussed with anybody other than with anybody other than the board members, it needs to be a hearing rather than just an agenda item. Not everything on the agenda gets discussed between the board and other than for somebody to get up during call to the public at the board meeting and say, I'm speaking to agenda item 57 on the consent agenda or whatever. But to come as part of the flow of the meeting, it needs to be something other than just an agenda item.
Chair Bickle, I believe you can just request that you present it
Yeah.
to the board.
Right. I think we present it to the board because the public would have an opportunity and call to the public to address the report. If you have a hearing, then you're going to get into a more lengthy discussion during that item in the agenda.
Okay.
So I don't think it needs to be a hearing. I think it needs to be a presentation on the agenda.
And we may be getting into semantics here as to what's called what, but we'll figure it out
Okay.
and come up with a way to make it happen.
Do the supervisors get copies of our regular summary minutes?
Chair Bickle, Commissioner Tillman, no.
Maybe that would be-
They're available. They're available to them online, just like they're available to anybody else.
That is correct. They're available online.
Okay, anything else about the annual report? Do you want us to fluff this one up before we send it up?
I can add some high level, not lengthy bits, and I'm looking at basically EIC work, which is on page 6, which is Roman numeral 4. Now, the Elections Department goals, I did have a question on section 5. So is this something that the Elections Department put into this report? And did this get included with your quarterly or annual reports? How did that work? Because if we're keeping the Elections Department and the EIC separate, then do we need the Elections Department information in the EIC report?
This has been presented this year and last year as a joint report of the EIC and the Elections Department. The Elections Department does a quarterly report in addition to the annual report, and I think if we get to the point where we are doing a quarterly report to the EIC, it makes much more sense to have an abbreviated joint report as an annual report.
At the annual
because
report?
the detail is dealt with in the quarterly report. And I think it also
I agree.
makes sense from the perspective of, if you take all the detail that you ran through,
In the quarterly?
when we first started
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about the annual report, it becomes a timeliness issue as well.
Mhm.
I mean, if you're waiting until the first quarter of the following year to report on a contract that was discussed by the recorder in February of the previous year,
Yeah,
is it meaningful for anything other than to provide
information.
information? So.
No, it's not.
And that's where I would take the two processes, like
I like that
Commissioner
word.
Tellman said, and have a brief, concise annual report that's a combined report of the EIC and the Elections Integrity Commission, and then more intense quarterly reports that address issues in a much more timely fashion. And if they want to be more timely than that, I'd refer them to the minute summaries meeting summaries that are
Right.
online.
Okay. So the signatories on our quarterly report, if we're going to do that, would be yourself and myself as the vice chair? Appropriate?
Yeah, that's
I think
fine
that would
with
be
me.
appropriate.
If you want it to be just
Sure.
you, that's fine with
So-
me too.
You know, if we need to do the quarterly report, then, like I said, I think I'll take a swag at doing them and get them to you, and then we could hash it out before presenting to the whole EIC
Yeah.
for approval.
And the biggest concern I'd have over this whole process is continuity. Because
Kind of what?
continuity,
Oh, okay.
because, and Commissioner Tellman's been around longer than I have, but I think other than her, I'm probably the longest serving member on this commission. And you get to the point where the rocket takes off and the trajectory slowly comes down, and all of a sudden we're right back to where we were today. Is if you leave the commission and you're the mover and shaker on the quarterly report, then we need to find another mover and shaker for the quarterly report, or all of a sudden it stops getting done.
Okay.
That's just,
Yeah, and
you know, it's
just to let you know.
it's got to be a commitment of the commission to continue doing the quarterly
Right, and so
report.
I'm here at the graces of the chair of the Pima County Republican Party. So I'll make sure he knows that.
And Chair Bickle and Commissioner Beresny, so as Chair Bickle said, the report was combined last year. I believe there had never been an annual report from the Elections Department. So it ended up kind of, because I was reporting information frequently, that it got combined into the EIC annual report. We can separate it out, and 2024 may be that year because there are 3 elections this year, and there's going to be a lot going on. So the elections portion is probably going to be a lot more than what we see now. So, you know, going forward, since the EIC will be doing quarterly reports as well, it may make sense to go ahead and separate them out.
Yep. Getting ahead of the game, like that.
Okay. Anything else?
So my updates that I want to give, I'll send them to Vanessa, and then she can
Yeah, and we'll get them.
incorporate them, and then I'll find the appropriate phase for it.
Yeah, and then it goes to the communications department. They do the finished product, is that not correct? They're the ones that put the pictures in and make it look good, or is that something you do?
They don't, do they edit your content? Okay.
No,
Cool.
that I can tell you.
Cool.
They don't edit the content. They just put the package together,
All right.
okay?
All right, so do we need a motion, or do we need anything to move forward on this?
No, because we're not going to pass the EIC annual report the way it currently exists.
Okay,
You
thanks.
You can fluff it up over
I'll
the
fluff
next,
it up a little bit.
yeah. And get it to Vanessa, and
So,
it depends on how quick we can get it from Vanessa to the communications department and back.
so according to the bylaws, the recorder's office, the recorder is still an ex officio member, so we're going to include that also?
If that's in there, I don't recall ever having put it in there. I think it's,
I think it's truthful. It's according to what we have in our bylaws.
well, I agree, it's what it should be in the bylaws. I question the validity of that appointment in there, because she doesn't serve on the commission because she's the recorder. She attends, or her designee attends the meetings because
They're nice people.
They're nice people, which doesn't make her an ex officio member.
Oh, okay, so
All an ex officio member is somebody who sits on the commission.
non-votes.
Director Hargrove is on this commission because she's the director of the elections department. That's an ex officio member. You serve on the commission because of a position that you hold elsewhere. And it's defined in the bylaws that she is also a non-voting member of the commission.
Along with the
Because people
recorder.
think ex officio members are traditionally non-voting. Not necessarily the case. It just means that you're in this position because you hold a position somewhere else. And if we put the recorder in there, then I think we probably overstepped our authority a little bit.
Is
We
that,
need to change the
what date
bylaws
is that?
Yeah.
These bylaws?
And I think we're getting a little bit off subject as far as the agenda is concerned.
That's old. Yeah, because in the bylaws it
Yeah,
said.
we'll hash the bylaws out. Future agenda items. What I would like to see on there next month, Vanessa, is the first two items on the report from the task force, and that's poll worker communications platform and incentives to improve poll worker recruitment, both of which I think are timely to this body as well as the recorder's office, but we handle most of that. And then the other thing, put on there a review of the bylaws.
And
That
then-
way we can talk about it and stay on the agenda.
Okay, yeah, so we're talking next agenda now?
Yes.
Okay, and so then we look at the electoral process flow charts.
Yeah.
And that gives everybody a month to review them and bring their questions up, okay? And then we'll have another ad hoc committee meeting in April to discuss the recorder's
Okay.
concerns.
I'm going to ask a question here you may or may not know the answer to. If you're working on that ad hoc report and we have recommendations for changes to keep us out of hot water as far as the open meetings law is concerned, can refer any suggestions you have for changes, send them to Vanessa, and Vanessa can get them to wherever they need to be. But what you don't want is us to be accused of having an illegal
Sure.
meeting.
Oh, yeah,
because it's
I would not
electronic in
discuss it
nature.
with anybody, you
So,
know, my
yeah,
concern.
funnel everything through Vanessa as far as comments, questions, and suggestions on the ad hoc committee's flow chart report. Or if somebody wants to bring up more stuff,
During the meeting.
about the annual report, to your fluff, get it to Vanessa
Sure.
and let Vanessa send it to you rather
Yep.
than directly from another commissioner to you.
Fully understand that.
Okay. Next meeting date is scheduled for February 16th. Does anybody have any issues with that meeting date?
I do, I will be out of the country.
So will I.
I may be a couple minutes late because my wife and I will be flying back from Florida that night before from our first cruise that we're taking in
Okay, and
February.
Commissioner Kirshen, you look like you're ready to not be there as well.
I'll be here, though.
Chairman, my term on the EIC expires on February the 5th, and I will,
That-
Libertarians will be appointing someone else to replace me.
Okay. So that may or may not be problematic for that individual.
So- Right.
Is there a problem with moving the meeting to, would be February the 23rd? Is that an issue for anybody? Particularly
It's good for me.
non-commissioners? Are you still going to be out of the country?
No, I get back on the 18th.
Okay.
And I get back on the 19th.
Is that good?
That good for you guys? Okay. Then the next meeting date will not be February 16th, it will be February 23rd, 2024.
23rd? Okay.
I believe that's a week later.
Let me look at my
I
dance
think
cards.
I can still add 7 and 16.
Let me look at my dance cards real
Yes, it
quick
was
here.
23rd. It works for me. The 16th is actually my birthday, so I guess I don't get to celebrate with all of you.
Didn't
And
worry.
we had one hell of a party planned.
I'm sure you did.
Happy birthday in advance.
What day is your birthday?
The 16th. Sonny Bono's birthday too.
Chair Pickle, I do have one question, one clarification. So for the annual report, are we sending that back out for you all to review before we send it to the Board of Supervisors? Because there's a schedule that they have that we have to meet in
Right.
order to get it on the agenda.
I would say let Commissioner Berezni do his fluff, get it to Vanessa, and as quickly as possible, and get it to communications so they can edit it. And edit's the wrong word, but they're going to put your stuff in where the stuff goes. They won't edit the content, but they put the package together, and then get it, hopefully get it back to us so that we can approve it for submittal to the board at the February meeting.
So you're still going to, okay, February
Yeah.
meeting, okay. All right, thank you.
Anything else that anybody wants to bring before this body legally? Hearing nothing, this meeting stands adjourned.